This video is not going to be heavily edited. I just kind of want to speak to you guys from the heart and candidly about my thoughts on Kubera, because the point of this video is I want the people on my channel and people who read Tower God in general who maybe have a they don't like Kubera because of the way maybe that some of us speak about it, the way that maybe they feel that I switched up on Tower of God for Kubera and that now this is my favorite webtoon, or you're just not sure if you really want to give it a fair chance. It doesn't look like your cup of tea for whatever reason. What I want to do here today is I really want to make a case for why I think that as a Tower of God fan, you should absolutely give Kubera a fair chance, especially if you like Tower of God, and especially if you're somebody who claims to care about storytelling and writing. I'll get into that. Like the video, subscribe, check the description where you can find me and stay updated on things. Let's hop right in.
A little something like eeny, meeny, right from the beginning. Smoke a little pack, but the pack never timid. Church, but I'm seeing it. Curse when I'm winning. She need a new back. When it's back, I'ma bend it. Slap up some guinea, pass me the henny. Watch a nigga black slipper yak, I'ma quit it. Swerve in the Benzie, perfume is Fendi. Bobbin' move fast, real fast like I'm Ricky. Just cause I'm pretty, came from the dirt. Shovel up a nigga, can't handle the work. Ooh, y'all, swing with it first. Young white girl like a ramble.
I would like to preface with this. I'm aware that everybody reads, plays, and watches things for different reasons. There's a lot of people I know who play video games and they really care about the narrative. If there's one medium where I don't really care about the story, it's a video game. I care if the game is good. The gameplay trumps everything for me. And everything else is kind of like a bonus or icing on the cake, if you will. So, for example, I've always make this kind of analogy, or this kind of I use this example a lot. Sorry, where I'm like, a game could start with a dude falling from the ceiling. The camera pans, and he's like, "I gotta find my sister," and the game just starts. I need nothing else. Let me play. I swear to God, I'm really like that. And then some people care about world building. Some people are lore whores. Some people like, plots and subplots, and then some people are like me. They're character. They like characters in their stories. And if you don't have a character that they can attach themselves to, whether because they resonate with them, they just like them, they think they're cool, or they relate to them, it's hard for them to really get invested in the story. And I would argue that I'm similar in that sense. Now, I say all that because I want to go into this point specifically. If you are somebody who claims and says and goes online and types out all these threads and things because you claim to care about storytelling, and you're a Tower of God fan and you think Tower of God is this well-written series, I'm gonna need you to stop and really give Kubera a fair chance, because Kubera is the only webtoon that I read from the Line and Naver side where I think it is extremely well told and extremely well written from top to bottom, from start to where we are today in Kubera. I think a lot of webtoons do some things great. Action, comedy, smut what be the porn what be hitting, you know what I'm saying? The things be thangin' for the big man thing, but some of them are really beautiful. Rawness and swag. They got a really cool MC and things like that. Like, it's not lost on me that you don't have to come for a story for a particular thing. Maybe you're an action merchant. But I am especially speaking to the people who come with their big brainery and they're like, I want to pontificate about why this scene here was brilliant with the Yataracha and blah, blah, blah. Kubera will give that to you without you having to rationalize and do certain things for the author. You'll just get that naturally. The thing about this series, in my opinion, well, two things I'll say, I'm sorry, that I think is very, very, very dope, that I read a lot, I watch and I play a lot from different languages, different places in the world, and different time periods. I would very much argue that I have one of the most diverse narrative palettes out of anybody that I know, literature palettes that I know. From nonfiction to fiction to fantasy to cyberpunk to games to movies to plays to whatever. French, English, Spanish, you know what I'm saying? I read a lot. Kubera does two things that I've never really encountered in another story to this degree. One of them is my patience being rewarded. I cannot think of too many series that honestly reward you with long-term payoff. And when I say this, I mean it consistently in so many aspects, from a reference to a theme, to a character, to a story event, to a flashback, to a backstory. It's not just like you planted a seed here, oh, a full circle, like that's common, but I'm talking about the way that it's so impactful and how potent it is when you're like, I thought that was kind of important, but I wasn't sure, but it really was. Like I knew like hanging on to this random panel of this thing that this character did come full circle 106 chapters later. And that's all I've ever asked for. If an author or creative team wants me to be patient about something, will reward me for my patience. And Currygom, the writer and author, wow, the artist and author of Kubera, is great at this, rewarding you, your patience, your theorizing or whatever, and you're like, oh, that's crazy. And I'm gonna be very honest with you, I don't think Tower of God does that. And one of those examples, like I think Tower of God does the opposite, where it's inconsistent with those things, that when it comes back around, I tend to be confused. And the example I'm actually going to use is the Karaka thing. I don't think Karaka is the same character or portrayed in the same light that he was supposed to be portrayed in. I think SLU did a bit of a 180 on him, and that doesn't happen in Kubera without good reason. If a character has a dramatic change or a drastic change, it is very well explained and shown through the words and the artistry of this webtoon. And I think more webtoons need to take care of the detail to this degree. Now, there's a couple of variables that I should probably be transparent about. Because if and correct me if I'm wrong, Kubera fans, because Currygom initially just wanted to make like a regular kind of novel, right? Like her forte does lie in her writing and storytelling ability. And the thing that she actually had to improve on, and not the other artists didn't have to do it, SIU included, was the artwork. Like becoming a better artist, improving the overall general aesthetics of the webtoon. I've never thought Tower of God or Kubera was ugly, but I could understand why the first season would leave a lot to be desired for certain people who are like, what is this? But I'll be honest with you, generally speaking, when it comes to a lot of these webtoons online especially, I don't think they're particularly consistent in terms of proportions, beauty, quality of art. It kind of fluctuates, so it's from some perspectives and angles. Characters look like googly cross-eyed, and like their nose are like, it's like way more like pronounced here than like it's just, so I try not to be too hard on artistry because I can't draw. I can write though, so I will point out writing where I don't like it. So yeah, there's that. And the second thing that I think is really, really special about Currygom is that her characters, I think, are really good from the jump. You may not like one, but you can acknowledge that this character is well written, has a thematic role that matters here, and I understand why they're in this narrative. And at some point, I call it, she will limit break a 10 out of 10 character to make them 13 out of 10. One of them is on screen. I'm not going to spoil why, but it is not something that I see very often. I've seen authors and creators do this with like one or two characters. I'd argue Zuko. Zuko from Avatar, I think, is a phenomenal character from the moment he steps on screen. But with some of the things he goes through for his character arc, I really think that they limit broke Zuko. She does this with like 13 different characters. It doesn't make any effing sense to me. I'm like, why are you so good at character writing? Like, who taught you this? Who allowed this to happen? I also argue that this is a series that gets better and better by the season and is a great binge read and a fantastic weekly read. Doesn't even matter. I actually was worried that it wouldn't be a great weekly read, but I'm happy I was wrong about that. But just like Tower of God, though, this is a series that's very dense. There's a lot of information, and I do think you need to revisit and kind of reread it at least twice from start to finish to kind of have a grasp of everything because there's so much to know. And with Kubera, though, I'm sorry to say this because I know it sounds like I'm being harsh on Tower of God. I care about remembering things that happened early because they still matter. Currygom doesn't do the thing where I'm actually going to say this is an Eastern storytelling thing where as the series gets a little bit big and maybe too big for its britches or its initial kind of clothing and it kind of starts to rip out, they have to discard some of the stuff they did really early and kind of, use retroactive continuity to create a new way for things to move forward, especially maybe when it comes to power and power scaling. Kubera never does that. It stays consistent and seamless to that from top to bottom. So that quality is there. I think the world building is incredible. It's one of the best world building series that in my opinion, because there's no. My problem with a lot of world building in places that you have this fantastical land and you'll mention all these places that we never see or go to, and I think that's kind of nonsense. There's a lot of things that make world building important, and one of the things that are important about it to me is the exploration of past events that impact the present and the characters. I don't think people really understand how integral characters are to world building, because you probably think they're not a literal part of the world like a building or the big Deku tree or something like that. You just think it's people. But people are a part of the world, and how they speak and the agency that they have matters. Are they NPCs that only kind of do things when the main character and or party is around, or is the world alive and breathing always at any given moment, no matter what the main cast or main characters are doing? The story is always moving and breathing and alive. Despite the main character being here or not being here, there's other characters with their own goals, motivations, agencies, talking points that do their thing, and it makes the world very vibrant, moving, alive, and things like that. Whereas sometimes with Tower of God, it doesn't come across. It did for a long time, but not anymore. It seems like things only happen kind of when Bam comes around, and everything else is like frozen. It's like an NPC in an RPG kind of thing. Like, oh, the NPC, the main character is here now. Now things can happen in this town type of thing. So, and the way that they explore past events, I think, is brilliant. I can't spoil it because I think that is something like with the conjunct backstories and flashbacks that they do. I think it's something you need to experience for yourself. But I guess a hint that I'll throw out is think Harry Potter Book 3, Prisoner of Azkaban. Azkaban? I don't remember what it's called, actually. Sorry if I got the name wrong, but think like that. And I think that going through backstories, flashbacks, and past events in such a manner is really good, because I think it's very kind of not interactive in the sense that I can like play and like press a button and interact with it, but I think it's just a much better way to experience it in that sense. And has a lot of overlapping commonality with Tower of God. So I think Bam and Lee's have a lot of commonality overlap. I think they're completely different, all things considered, but they kind of have that child of destiny, destined for great things, born of two special parent type of thing going on. It has the ever-expanding cast as we go to different places. The cast gets bigger and larger, though the ways in which they're explored are different. Think Tower of God had the One Piece problem. They didn't know how to. SIU and Oda didn't know how to hold the reins of all these characters, and at one point they started to pull the sled. Like if every character, if the author is the person on the sleigh who's commanding all the reindeer, and every reindeer is a character. At one point, SIU and Oda have perfect control, and then at one point there's so many that they're steering him almost. Currygom does something different that I actually am not saying it's a good or bad, but it's my personal preference, so I'm okay with it, and she switches perspectives. So instead of just trying to have the entire cast always doing everything together at the same time and trying to focus on different people, she'll separate them or have them together, but focus on them at different times. You might go with 30 chapters without seeing your favorite character, which would translate to a lot of weeks. You know what I'm saying? Because 52 weeks is a year, I think, right? So you got to think about it that way too when you're reading it weekly. So I can understand if it's a character you don't really care about to that degree, and it's a character you really miss, you not being able to see and experience them for a really long time can be frustrating. But I think for the overall totality of the narrative, this is a much better way of doing it. And I'll end off with this last point here. The convergence of a big moment having a plethora and multitude of moving parts is something that I think Currygom, I think this is Currygom's specialty, in the sense that this is not something that I think I've seen other great writers be able to do. Some great writers create incredible magic systems, characters, the way they interweave their lore and world building is just chef's kiss. But this is something that I've seen other authors, and sometimes I've seen them do this, but she does this so often that I have to say this is like your talent. There could be a crescendoing moment where character A and character B are on a collision course to like clash and have this big confrontation, and you cannot wait. But she has all of these ancillary parts as like a sub confrontation moving along this as it's crescendoing to its climax, where you're like, we know character A and B hate each other when it comes to how it's going to be crazy, but also character A is actually connected to character B's boyfriend, and then you know their mother, and their mother likes you, so it's like they're also going to meet in this place, and it's like, while this main confrontation is happening, there's all these other moving points to it. So when the clash kind of happens, you're like, there's like 8 things here that matter besides the main event, so to speak. And I'm like, wow, how does she keep doing that? And I think I noticed this about maybe in the latter half of the second season, where I'm like, I don't think I've seen any other author or creative team do this often, where it's like this one event, this one collision course has 8 to 10 different moving parts here that matter. That matter or are just as, if not more, interesting than the main event itself. So, again, if you don't actually care about writing and storytelling to that degree, you can disregard everything that I'm saying, because this is not for you. Because I'm going to be very honest. I think Kubera is a series for intellectuals. I think this is a series that for people who are smart, care about critical thinking, know how to deconstruct literature, and they want their narratives to be tightly written and told and expressed well, capture you emotionally, mentally, intellectually, amongst other things. And I don't like saying that because it sounds pretentious, but I really mean that. Being a Kubera casual, it probably exists, but I don't know if it really makes any sense, because most people that I know who really love this series care about it deeply. I'm still gathering my bearings in terms of remembering specific details and contents of the story, but I definitely, as somebody who cares about writing storytelling and studied it deeply and did this kind of stuff in post-secondary and has published works and articles myself, I'm blown away by her talent of writing. I guess as a final send off, the artwork to me is really good, and I think she doesn't run from the grind like Togashi does, and tries to improve the parts she's not great at. She thought she wasn't that great at depicting action, and I think she worked that in the 3rd season. It comes across a lot better, instead of just kind of like a couple of hits here and there, like a general kaiju battle. I think that was season 3. She flexes that she's gotten better at portraying action. So, anyways, the characters are good. The world building and lore is fantastic. The characters are incredible. The way that we explore flashbacks are great. Your patience is rewarded in ways that I'd wish that other series and games and shows would do for me. It all comes full circle. The long-term payoff is great, and it just keeps getting better. Please, Tower of God fans, I'm not saying this, maybe I'm wrong and it will not resonate with you, but all I ask is that you, in earnest, give it a fair chance. And maybe you can join us on the right side of history. Y'all be safe and have yourselves a mighty fine day. If there's anybody in the comment section who wants to add on something without spoiling any major details about why Kubera should and will resonate with the Tower of God fan, please say so in the comment section below. Y'all be safe, man. You already know I gotta show love to the Patreon gang. Yes, sir. Shout out to the Certified BAM lovers, my CBLs. Big love to the Priest of Fire. I greatly appreciate you guys' support, but especially shout out to my 5th Zen God. Shout out to Simi, Scobe, Revenant, Miles, Lucky Roo, Lazy Dragon, Chris, Johnny Rogers, Irene Sharda, Triss, David Langstaff, Childish Nujabes, Alan, AJ, Abdel, and 5:28 a.m. Your support is greatly appreciated, and thank you.